Welcome to World Action and Reaction News. Today's news headlines are: in a bid to boost its firepower at the borders, India is planning to deploy its deadly American Apache attack helicopters at the sensitive Pathankot Air Base in Punjab as well as Horhat in Assam to fortify the northeastern sector. The Defense Ministry cleared a $2.2 billion contract with the U.S. in 2015 for 22 Apache attack helicopters that will strengthen the Indian Air Force's capabilities on the frontiers with Pakistan and China. At present, the Air Force is planning to deploy the 2 squadrons of the Apache helicopters in Pathankot in Punjab and Horhat in Assam to meet the security requirements of the Western and the Eastern Theatre, sources in the Defense Ministry told Mail Today. The Pathankot Air Base already has a component of the Russian-origin Mi-35 attack helicopters, which are used for supporting the advance of the army in war against the enemy infantry and tank regiments, while Horhat would be getting an attack helicopter unit for the first time. Russia has repudiated media claims that India is dissatisfied with the reliability and serviceability of its MiG-29K Fulcrum naval strike fighters, with a strongly worded statement sent to Janes on August 9. Russian Aircraft Corporation, RAC, said that claims made in a recent U.S. article on acute maintenance problems being experienced by the Indian Navy, with its 45 carrier-based MiG-29Ks are simply not true. We would like to flatly refute all negative allegations in the article concerning the MiG-29K aircraft, which are the sole fighters on the aircraft carrier INS Vikramaditya. Neither we, nor our partners have received any official claims about operational problems with the Russian MiG aircraft, RAC said in its statement, adding, "It should be mentioned that the INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant aircraft carriers are tailored for carrying Russian-designed aircrafts including MiG-29K/Kub. All technical systems of the ship, radars, and other deck-based systems were produced in Russia, and were designed to be operated only with MiG aircraft." In the original article that prompted RAC's forceful defense of its MiG-29K, an unnamed official said that the aircraft are suffering from the wear and tear of carrier operations, compounded by the fact that all of the major components must be repaired by Russia as a consequence of how the procurement deal was structured. Ukraine is negotiating the sale of 100 T-84 Oplot main battle tanks to Pakistan, and plans to use the funds to modernize the production capacities of its state-owned defense industry and invest in research and development, according to Daily Gazeta Wyborcza. The potential deal, which is to be handed to Ukraine defense group Ukroboronprom, would mark another export contract for the supply of the tanks following a deal signed in 2011 with Thailand. Bangkok is to obtain a total of 49 Oplots. In the 1990s, the Ukrainian defense industry supplied 320 T-84 UD tanks to Pakistan's military under a deal worth some $600 million. In addition to export sales, Ukroboronprom is also producing Oplots for the country's armed forces. Last month, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko announced that more than 300 million hryvnia, US $12 million, will be allocated to acquire an undisclosed number of tanks for the Ukrainian land forces. It could well be a game-changer in India's defence manufacturing and hitherto the most definitive push towards realising Prime Minister Narendra Modi's much-vaunted Make in India dream. Over the next 2 years, the Indian government will be awarding its orders for the manufacture of 200 single-engine medium-range fighter jets for use by the Indian Air Force, IAF. And eager to seal the approximately $10 billion, DH367 billion, deal, at an estimated average price of $50 million per unit, is the who's who of the global defense aviation manufacturing industry with their array of cutting-edge technology offerings and promises to build fighter planes in India, for India, by India, as one senior official from a Swedish defense firm put it during a chat with Gulf News recently. To counter China and Pakistan, India will increase firepower of its deadly fighter Su-30MKI. The enhancement will be done under the Rs 3,000 crore proposal, which was recently cleared by the Narendra Modi government. The aircraft will be equipped with new reconnaissance pods which will help detect hardened terrorists in remote locations such as mountains and bunkers. It can also identify bunkers built by the enemy in hidden terrain. The reconnaissance pods will help analyze suspected terrains where high-value enemy assets or terrorists could be hiding and further locate the target and eliminate it. Such reconnaissance pods were not available during Kargil War. With its presence, the Air Force could have easily destroyed the Pakistani army and the terrorists hiding in the cover of bunkers made up of boulders and small natural caves in the higher reaches. The Air Force describes the Sukhoi as its air dominance fighter because it allows the service to perform a multiplicity of missions required to keep up with India's rising global stature. The Sukhoi's versatility owing to its extended range, speed, firepower, and supermaneuverability has given the IAF considerable freedom in deploying the aircraft in offensive missions. Lots of wooing and bromancing later, does India really have a true friend in the White House? A friend who'll rush to help when a certain standoff in a Himalayan pass escalates into war? I am quite sure that the US will come to your support. This is not about no first use of nuclear weapon, said Michael Crapo, co-founder of the Washington-based The Stimson Center, a policy research center that focuses on working to solve global security threats. Crapo was speaking at the India International Center at an event organized by the Institute of Chinese Studies. He called the Chinese road building in peripheral areas as the functional equivalent of creating atolls in the South China Sea. The present situation in Doklam, is certainly not a one-off situation, even when, and if it gets resolved. It raises the question of how India will protect its interests in peripheral areas, he said. The Defense Ministry has approved projects worth thousands of crores to sharpen the fighting capability of its tanks and infantry combat vehicles, amid the national auditor revealing gaping holes in the military's battle readiness. The projects approved include ammunition for more than 1,500 Russian-origin BMP-2/2K infantry combat vehicles, top-end missiles for 3,000 T-90/T-72 tanks and lots of rounds for L-70 air defense guns, officials said. The Ministry's Department of Defense Production, DDP, gave the green light to the programs on July 10. The government of Bhutan on Thursday pointedly refuted a Chinese foreign ministry claim that Bhutan had conveyed through diplomatic channels to China that the trilateral border standoff area in Doklam in the Sikkim sector is not its territory. Official sources in the Bhutanese government told ANI over phone, "Our position on the border issue of Doklam is very clear. Please refer to our statement which has been published on the website of Bhutan's Foreign Ministry on June 29, 2017. The Bhutanese sources were responding to a stunning, but unsubstantiated claim made by China's top diplomat, Wang Wenli, that Bhutan had conveyed to Beijing through the diplomatic channels that the area of the standoff was not its territory. Wang, who is the Deputy Director General of the Department of Boundary and Ocean Affairs in China's Foreign Ministry, reportedly conveyed this information to a visiting Indian media delegation on Wednesday. She, however, did not provide any evidence of her claim, which official sources in Bhutan said is at complete variance with Thimphu's stated position and actions. India is going ahead with the acquisition of a fifth-generation fighter aircraft with Russia after an internal committee of the Ministry of Defence recommended that the purchase of the aircraft will duplicate India's plan to develop a homegrown advanced medium combat aircraft, according to an MOD official. The internal committee, headed by retired Indian Air Force Air Marshal Simhakudi Varthaman, after studying technical parameters, has recommended India to acquire the Indo-Russian FGFA, the MOD official said, referring to the fifth-generation fighter aircraft. On the road ahead, the official said, a final agreement between India and Russia will be prepared that will pave the way for the release of over $5 billion toward India's share to develop the FGFA. A preliminary development agreement was signed in 2010 between Russia's United Aircraft Corporation and India's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL, when India paid its 50% share of $250 million toward initial development cost. A firm order of 108 will be put in the final draft of the agreement being prepared, said an IAF official. In a bid to boost its firepower at the borders, India is planning to deploy its deadly American Apache attack helicopters at the sensitive Pathankot Air Base in Punjab as well as Horhat in Assam to fortify the northeastern sector. The Defense Ministry cleared a $2.2 billion contract with the U.S. in 2015 for 22 Apache attack helicopters that will strengthen the Indian Air Force's capabilities on the frontiers with Pakistan and China. At present, the Air Force is planning to deploy the 2 squadrons of the Apache helicopters in Pathankot in Punjab and Horhat in Assam to meet the security requirements of the Western and the Eastern Theatre, sources in the Defense Ministry told Mail Today. The Pathankot airbase already has a component of the Russian-origin Mi-35 attack helicopters, which are used for supporting the advance of the army in war against the enemy infantry and tank regiments, while Horhat would be getting an attack helicopter unit for the first time.